Good morning, everyone. Mrs. Allen here, bringing you today's lesson, Orienting Yourself to a Text. We'll start first, I think, by unpacking that word orienting a little bit. When I think about orienting myself, I kind of have a visual of myself walking into a room, looking around, trying to figure out where am I. I might notice that there are books upon books on the wall, and I might think to myself, this could be a library. Or maybe I see rows and rows of chairs, and I'm thinking, could this be a waiting room? And it's important that I orient myself to my surroundings, right? Because it helps me understand my expectations. What am I supposed to be doing here and how am I supposed to be acting? The same is true when we pick up a new text, right? When I pick up a new book that I've never read before, I want to orient myself to this text. I want to get used to it and figure out what it's going to be all about so that I know what I'm walking into. And I do that in a couple ways, right? Good readers almost always look at the cover first, right? I'm noticing here that there's a cat with a fairly grumpy look upon his face. Oddly enough, I'm noticing that the title is Grumpy Cat. So already I'm starting to think about what this story might entail or what I might be walking into as I open this book up. I'm also noticing down here kind of a sweet, lovable little kitten looking up at Grumpy Cat with eyes of like, kind of sweet and thoughtful. I might also turn this book over and look at the back. I might read the back blurb just to give myself a little bit of background information or even decide if I want to continue reading this book, right? That's something that I know we've talked about in my classroom before is how do we decide if a book's going to be a good fit? Kind of those same skills are used when we're orienting ourselves to the text. I might open the first couple pages as well and just look at some of the illustrations, kind of maybe take a little picture walk and just decide like what do I think this book is going to be about? What do I need to start activating in my brain so that I know how to read this book? Okay. Today's learning target is that by the end of this lesson, I will be able to preview a book to begin figuring out not only the characters and the setting, but also early clues of a possible theme. Remember, theme is like that big life lesson, something that the author is trying to teach us or remind us of that can be applied not only to this story, but to everybody's lives all over the world. Your learning activity is pretty fun and easy today. You get to sit back, relax, and listen to me read Grumpy Cat by Britta Teckentrup. It's one of our favorite bedtime stories here at the Allen household, so I hope you enjoy it too. While we're reading through that, I'll be stopping and pausing just to kind of think out loud and show you how, as a reader, I might find some clues early on in this text to help me figure out the theme. Your accountability task for today, or the independent work that you're going to do when this lesson is done, is going to be reading and logging 20 minutes on your shared reading log that you can find in Google Classroom. You will also be responsible for completing at least 15 minutes of work on Lexia. All right, so here we go. Grumpy Cat by Britta Teckentrup. Once there was a cat who lived all alone. He ate on his own, he slept on his own, he spent every day alone. He would sit between the trash cans and look very, very grumpy. At night, other cats in the neighborhood would meet and play together. Cat wanted to join in, but he just didn't know how. The other cats didn't ask him because they thought he was a grumpy cat. But really, he was a lonely cat. I'm going to pause right there because to me as a reader, this is a clue, right? I feel like the author is giving us a little bit of a sneak peek about Grumpy Cat, right? Maybe he isn't so grumpy after all. Maybe he's being misinterpreted and people are thinking he's grumpy because of the look on his face, but she just said, but really, he was a lonely cat. You'll notice too that I'm finding this clue very early on in my reading. I'm not reading all the way through this text and then pausing to think what's the theme. I'm reading wide awake with my eyes wide open and I'm looking for clues early on, and there we found one. One night everything changed. There was a terrible thunderstorm that crashed and shook the ground. Cat looked for shelter from the storm, but there wasn't any. Poor Cat got wetter, colder, soggier, and even grumpier than before. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, there came a meow. Cat looked down, and there between his paws was a little orange kitten. Kitten was as wet and as cold and as soggy as Cat. Meow, said Kitten. Cat didn't know what to do. The rain stopped. Kitten meowed again. She thought she'd found a friend. But Cat just glared at Kitten and walked away. Kitten followed Cat. She rolled on her back and showed her belly. She wiggled her tail under Cat's nose. She tried to catch Cat's tail. She just wanted to be friendly, but Cat still looked grumpy. Notice the author uses the word looked grumpy. Cat tried his best to lose Kitten by balancing on a high picket fence, but Kitten was right behind him. Cat thought he'd finally lost Kitten by climbing a tall tree. Then Cat heard a meow. Slowly and grumpily, Cat turned around. There, at the foot of the tree, was Kitten. Never giving up, that Kitten. Never giving up. Kitten followed Cat up the tree. She tried to reach him by balancing on the thinnest of branches. Then Kitten slipped. Quick as a flash, Cat leapt over and took Kitten gently by the scruff of her neck and carried her down the tree to safety. Once they were on the ground, Cat licked Kitten to make sure she felt safe. That's a pretty caring thing for a grumpy cat to do, isn't it? Maybe we're seeing some true colors. Kitten meowed. She was happy and hungry. Cat dashed off, but soon returned with a surprise, a great big fresh fish as big as Kitten. Cat and Kitten ate until their bellies were full. Cat and Kitten cuddled up for a snooze. They had each found a friend, and Cat was never grumpy again. Well, almost never. Okay, so if we take a minute there to pause and just kind of reflect on that reading, and if I were to ask you then as a student to say, okay, write me a couple sentences about what's the theme? What do you think the theme of this story was? Because we stopped and we read along the way and we were already having ideas very early on in that text, it's a little bit easier now on the other end to think about what some possible themes might be. I'm thinking, as you might be as well, thinking maybe don't judge a book by its cover, right? Grumpy Cat looked grumpy, but really he wasn't grumpy. He was just lonely. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to have friends. And it took sweet little Kitten kind of pulling him to the other side. I also noticed in there a little bit of perseverance, maybe like never give up, or some friends are worth fighting for. Kitten never gave up on Grumpy Cat, right? Even when he walked away and glared at her and gave her nasty looks, she still persisted and she kept trying and trying and trying to be his friend. So I hope that the story Grumpy Cat helped you understand a little bit how good learners can preview a book to begin figuring out not only the characters and the setting, but also those early clues of a possible theme. You can do the same thing in your reading, and I'll invite you to do that today when you do your 20 minutes of reading. Really read with your eyes wide open, looking for clues about what the theme might be. Okay, I look forward to seeing each of you in our meeting today, because remember, you're going to be watching this video before our meeting, coming to our meeting with any questions you might have. If for any reason you're not able to attend our meeting today, that's no problem, but please do shoot me an email so that I know what's going on and I don't worry about you. All right, I'll see you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.